I divorced her over kids. And now she wants me to be a dad to a child that isn't mine. I want to preface this by saying that I have no intentions of getting back with my ex, and I'm in a very happy relationship with my now fiancé. And I'm sorry this is long, I just wanted to add all the context in, and I'm not the best with words. I, 46M, married my ex-wife, 45F, when we were 26 and 25 respectively. At that time, we were both on the fence about having kids. I knew since college that I wanted to retire early, and my dream of having financial freedom was what really made me realize that kids didn't fit into the life I wanted. I was trying to find the right time to talk with her about it, but over the next few weeks, she started dropping hints that she wanted kids. She started showing me photos of her friends' kids, commenting on our nieces and nephews, joking about her getting/being pregnant. That one freaked me out, and even bought me a book on the joys of fatherhood that she thought I'd find interesting. I sat her down and asked her if she wanted kids, and she admitted that over the years she had grown to want a family. We had a conversation about it, and I realized that neither one of us was going to change our minds. I didn't want to keep her from what she wanted in life, so I brought up divorce. She really didn't want a divorce, and kept trying to get me to want kids, but I stuck to what I wanted and we ended up separating. I obviously still loved her, but that's why I wanted to divorce. We were still young and she could find someone to have the family she wants with. I didn't want her to resent me for forcing my life choices onto her. Even after I filed for divorce, she still didn't agree with me and dragged it out as long as she could, so the divorce took almost 2 years. I dated over the years, but never really found someone that I could see myself sharing the rest of my life with until I met my now fiancé 4 years ago. Apparently, my ex-wife struggled with dating as well and hasn't remarried yet. She has a son, but the kid's dad isn't in the picture. She recently reached out to me and asked if we could meet to catch up. I talked with my fiancé about it and she thought it'd be a great way to clear up any bad blood between us, so I agreed to meet up with her for coffee. Things seemed to be going well until she brought up her son. She asked me if I was willing to be a part of his life as a masculine influence, and I told her I was glad that she was able to have a child, but that it still wasn't something I was interested in. She tried to change my mind by saying that we could be a family again. She kept trying to convince me, and I kept trying to change the subject. I admit I got frustrated because things weren't going as I hoped they would, and I told her that I was happy with my fiancé's name and that I was not interested in her. She started to insult my fiancé, so I left. I thought what happened was crazy. When I agreed to meet with her, it never even occurred to me that she might want to get back together considering how long it's been and, I'm not single. She kept messaging me, so I blocked her, and I don't plan on talking with her again. I was talking with my sister and her husband about it, and they said that while I'm totally right for rejecting her now, that it was an asshole move on my part to divorce her in the first place and that I was now being an again by not being a part of her kid's life. They both agreed that my ex was right for wanting to work it out. They said it's my fault that her child doesn't have a father and that if I had given having kids a chance, I would have changed my mind. I just don't agree that kids are something one should compromise on. I just don't see how it's possible for it to not be a bad situation for everyone involved that breeds resentment. I don't know my ex's child at all, and I don't agree that it's my responsibility to step up just because his bio dad didn't. I asked some other friends and family, and they agreed with my sister, so now I'm not sure if what I did was wrong or not and I was just wrongly justifying it to myself. Edit, I wanted to add that my mom, sister, and most of my other family members and friends are or used to be a part of the same church that doesn't agree with divorce. Commenter 1. How is her situation your fault? You were clear from the start that you didn't want kids. Personally, I don't get that, but this is your life, not mine. Split up and divorced over her changing her mind, yet somehow it's your fault that she got knocked up, hasn't managed to maintain a relationship and that the kid has no father figure? Your ex, sister and brother-in-law are all talking out of their asses. Not your monkey, not your circus. And I wasn't exactly clear from the start. We were both unsure about having kids when we got married. We both were starting our careers and thought we had a lot of time left to decide. It just so happened that when we each made up our minds a few years later that we came to different decisions. A lot of my family is against divorce, some of them are against divorce even in extreme cases like abuse, and my sister and brother-in-law think that I'm still responsible for her well-being since I'm the one who forced the divorce when my ex-wife didn't want one. Apparently I'm still connected to her, and therefore I'm connected to her kid too. Commenter 2. They sound cult. Why? Are they? My family situation is a bit complicated, but my mom, sister, family friends, and some other family members are a part of a strict church. I'm not saying what it is because it's pretty small, but that's why I think a lot of them are agreeing against me on this. Divorce is kind of a big no-no, and I even stopped talking with a few friends because they refused to acknowledge my divorce and it was just weird. Although my sister is in the church, she has never been all in and almost left multiple times. My Bill is also not in the church, which is a point of contention, but also why I thought the two of them might actually be right and I could be the crazy one. Two of my friends that I asked are also not in the church and only one of them agreed with me. Commenter 3. Hi. It sounds like these people actually want you to be miserable and not have a fantastic affordable retirement. No, you are not the asshole. We each have the right to our own way of life. Name calling takes place when the aggressor has no factual points to sell their opinion with. Upcoming gross and sensitive alert. Turn away if you are sensitive. Hopefully there is zero chance you knocked her up. Could she have turkey basted from a spent condom or something? Have a lovely remarriage and treat your fiancée like she is the only love for you. That little Tay-Tay meeting up with your ex did cast a shadow in her mind. Help that shadow dissipate for good. Yes, low contact with the others forever. Op. We divorced 16 years ago and her son is 11, so no possible way he could be mine. Thank you for your concern, but my fiancée is fine, no shadow was created. We are both very secure in our relationship and she was the one who encouraged me to meet with her so she could apologize to me for how she lied and talked shit about me. Even though that's not what ended up happening, my intentions were clear and never changed. Commenter 4, super confused by all of your family members' reactions. Maybe they adored your ex or maybe you come from a very family-focused culture and they just lament your divorce. But her ask is significant and became inappropriate when she asked to be a family again. I don't think it's weird for her to want a man who she was with for almost 2 decades and clearly values to provide some masculine influence if you guys truly are and can be friendly, but the family again makes it clear that's not the case. Don't let your family crazy make you crazy. Op. We were together for 6 years and married for 2.5 of those, not counting the time we were separating and in the process of divorcing. It's been about 16 years since we divorced and I have been no contact with her for most of that time. Most of my family goes to the same church as my ex and they are on good terms, and those family members are very against divorce for any reason. They also don't really like my fiancée, they are cordial and mostly respectful to each other, but she thinks my family is crazy and my family thinks she's a witch for some reason. Commenter 5. My brother has 2 kids, my nephews. I like them fine, they're cool little dudes. They are a lot though, particularly the younger one. We are an ADHD family, and the little man is the stereotypical bouncing off the walls, always talking, always moving, crank it up to 11, ADHD little boy. I get it, but it can be incredibly overwhelming after a full day, or a few if we're visiting, and my favorite thing is the ability to give him back to his parents because he is not my child. Needless to say, my husband and I have dog kids, not human kids. Just because you like your nieces and nephews, doesn't mean you want your own kids and sure as hell doesn't make you a hypocrite. Op. My sister and her husband have 2 kids, and my fiancée has 13 nieces and nephews. I like kids and she loves kids, but neither one of us has a desire to have any of our own. Commenter 6. Your extended family has enough kids for the both of you. 13? Jesus. Op. My fiancée comes from a big family. She's the second oldest and all of her younger siblings have kids. Her parents aren't the ones complaining about us being child-free. Commenter 7. And if your ex-wife had just decided she didn't want kids, you wouldn't have had to divorce her, then there wouldn't be a kid at all to worry about. See how that can get changed around? There are millions of men in this country. And a lot of them will take care of their children and stick around to raise them even in a co-parenting situation. It's not your fault she picked one of the ones who wouldn't. I'm going to guess that since her changing her mind to having kids and you not wanting them caused the divorce, she decided to blindside the new guy instead of giving him a choice when he might leave because he probably didn't want kids either and oopsie got pregnant. So now she's surprised that somebody who didn't want kids didn't stick around for the kid. How's that your problem? And yes, I filled in a little bit of the details myself, but it makes sense. These are the consequences of her actions. Not your problem. Op. I'm about 98% sure about who the kid's father is, and if I'm right then I don't really blame him. I obviously feel bad for the kid, but he was, in my books, still a kid as well. The guy I think is the father is currently about 30, I think, but he was a recent high school graduate when my ex got pregnant. My ex and him got engaged, he moved away suddenly and nobody could get a hold of him, and then it came out that my ex was pregnant. He was in a trade apprenticeship program before he left, but I don't know where he is or how he's doing now. Commenter 8. You seem to know a lot about who your ex was sleeping with and details about this elaborate story for someone who's been split up with his ex for nearly 2 decades. This comment is just proof you're making this up as you go along. It gets more whimsical with each character. The elusive ex's child's father, who disappeared into the night that no one can reach. Like, how do you actually know no one can contact him? You know way too many intricate details here for this to be true. Op. Everyone knows everyone in the church. I'm currently agnostic, but I was in the church for many years and most of my social circle is or was in it. I remember holding the guy when he was a baby and his parents are close with my parents. I don't live in a bubble where I don't know anything about what's going on in my circle. I was at my parents' house when it was brought up and since I knew the guy and I wanted my ex-wife to be happy with a family, which is why I divorced her, I looked into what was going on. I say 98% sure because no paternity test was done so it is possible it's not his kid. Update, 1 week later. So, some things have happened. My ex-wife somehow got a hold of my fiancé's phone number. She contacted her yesterday and made false accusations that I cheated on her when we met up for coffee. Obviously, my fiancé didn't believe her and just blocked her number. This morning, my sister showed up uninvited to my fiancé's house with her kids demanding to talk. We don't live together and I was not there. My fiancé originally wasn't going to let them in, but my sister sat on her porch and refused to leave. It was cold and windy and the kids didn't have coats on, and since it's not the kids' fault, she ended up giving in. She put on a show for the kids and made some coffee to prepare herself for whatever shit my sister was going to say. My sister started a whole spiel about how if she, my fiancé, really cared about me and not just my money, then she would do what's best for me, and leave. My sister claimed that since I'll always be connected to my ex, that I will be forever unhappy if I'm with anyone else. Apparently if my fiancé doesn't leave me, it's proof that she's only with me for my money, and that it's obvious that my ex and our child, which, it's not my kid, would actually use the money in a godly way. My fiancé laughed in my sister's face and just stared at her until she left. My fiancé and I are both a little confused by what she said. I am better off financially than my fiancé, but not by that much. I'm also not religious, so even if I did get back with my ex, me and my money would still not be godly. We know she's crazy, but again, why did she think her plan would do anything? After my sister left, my fiancé called me and told me what happened. I called my sister to tell her to leave my fiancé alone and that she was crazy and delusional. She defended herself by saying that she knew what was best for me and was just protecting me from going through with the wedding since my fiancé was obviously taking advantage of me, and that since I'm under her spell, I can't protect myself. I again told her she was crazy and delusional, and told her that I never wanted to hear from her, or anyone who's siding with my ex, again, and to please pass that message on. Every time a family member or friend messages me about it, which has been 6 just since this morning, I ask them what their thoughts on the matter are, and if they side with my ex or sister, I block them. Commenter 1. Info out of curiosity, how many people in your family have you blocked so far? Op. 10, including my sister. This is because I also blocked the spouses of the person. I've also blocked 2 couples that I'm friends with not anymore, that I'm not related to. Commenter 2. Question. Is your sister also a single mom? Op. No, she's married and has 2 kids with my brother-in-law. I wouldn't say their relationship is the best though. He had an affair a few years ago and they worked it out, and I know that over the years my brother-in-law has gotten more and more fed up with the church stuff. He does have very similar views, it's just not to the same extreme. Commenter 3. What race and religion are you, your ex, and your fiancé? Curious as to why your family is so pro your ex and anti your fiancé? What does your ex have that your fiancé does in their eyes? Op. I'm half Korean/half white European and agnostic. My ex is white European and Christian, very specific church, but if I say what it is, it would be fairly easy for anyone to find me and my family, and my fiancé is white European and somewhat agnostic but does have some fluid spiritual beliefs. My fiancé is also a divorcee, she divorced her ex-husband because he had an affair, and apparently that is not a good enough reason. I know 3 people, including my sister, that have forgiven their spouses for cheating. My fiancé has a very extensive rock collection, hobby, does yoga, easy on the joints, and burns incense, it smells good, and my family has seen a few Facebook posts about witches and thinks she's one. In their eyes it means she's worshipping the devil. Commenter 4. I'm not victim blaming, but this does make me question why you went to your sister for advice in the first place since your church-going, divorce-hating family who already have spawned a gaggle of progeny were unlikely to accept that your first marriage didn't work out because you didn't want kids. People come out with some right shit sometimes, like men are more reluctant to have kids, it's so dismissive of anyone who actually doesn't want kids. You weren't the asshole for leaving your wife for wanting different things. You aren't the asshole who left his kid without a dad, and you're definitely not the asshole for refusing to parent a child that's not yours and belongs to your ex. The fact is your family are a little wacky and they were not comfortable with your lifestyle choices and think that they can solve it now. I think blocking people who are supporting your ex is probably a good idea, but please do understand that when you and your fiancé are married, this isn't going to be magically fixed. Op. I've talked to my sister and brother-in-law about my ex before, and although they don't believe in divorce, they have always seemed pretty supportive of my choices. They encouraged me to not divorce her, to take her back afterwards, and to try and be friends with her, but didn't push it too hard. They stopped inviting my ex to family gatherings, and when they invited her again randomly a few years ago, I left and told them to never do that again, and they listened. Basically what I'm saying is that although they've always held fast to their beliefs, they haven't been this crazy or out of line before. About my ex, they went pretty crazy when I stopped going to church, but that's a different story. I know that marrying my fiancé won't be a magic fix, but hopefully moving across the country after the wedding will help even more. Final update, 1 year later. She's now my wife. I have kept everyone blocked, and although my sister did show up to my house a few times, I threatened legal action and she stopped. My wife and I now live on the opposite side of the country from my family and we haven't had any issues. The wedding was wonderful, one of the best days of my life. We now live across the country away from my family and haven't had any recent issues with them. Thank you for your kind words.